think I'm gonna make a sign. I've never had a sign on the outside of my shop, but then again, I've never had exterior lights on the outside of my shop. So now that I have the lights, I think I'm gonna make a sign. Yeah, let's do that. Now, most people would probably just find somebody with a CNC, throw a big chunk of wood on there and have them make a sign. I don't have a CNC in the traditional sense. I do have the shape or origin, but also that's kind of stupid because a lot of you guys out there don't have shape or origins. So I'm gonna try and make this sign with basic woodworking tools so that what I do, everybody that's watching this video should be able to do in their shop as well. To start out, we need some wood. I decided I'm going to go with Sapele, call it that. It's in the mahogany family, which means it does really well outside. It's got a lot of natural oils in the wood, so it's resistant to rotting. Not that the sign's gonna get super wet, and I'm probably gonna paint it, but still, we should have a good base. It's a little harder than cedar, so it should last forever. Let's get this cut down. All right, now as you can see, this is gonna be a big sign. I'll talk about the image that's going on here in a little bit. For now, I gotta get this glued up. It's gonna be outside. It's gonna be exposed to seasonal weather, moisture fluctuations in the air. So I think instead of just using regular wood glue, I'm gonna glue it up with thickened epoxy. Now, you could probably get away with Titebond 3 because it's rated for outdoor use, but we have time to let the epoxy dry. So might as well just use epoxy. Then it'll be bulletproof. So I'm gonna grab some thickened epoxy, get this thing clamped up. Okay, I've got my panel for my sign glued up of this sapele. Now it's time to actually make the sign. For the image of the sign, I could just draw something on there, but I'm not that good at art. So what I did was I took our logo, one of our logos, and I found a local company that prints large scale prints. They do like blueprints and stuff like that. It's pretty common. Any town you live in America, you could probably find a similar place. I know that Staples and bigger stores like that do it too. And so I ordered this large poster of the logo that I want the sign to be. So I'm gonna take this piece of paper, I'm going to glue it onto my surface, and then theoretically, all I'm gonna have to do is follow the lines with a router and carve it all out. This is where having a giant CNC would come in real handy, because I could just press a button and a robot could do it for me. But I don't have a giant CNC. Lots of you at home probably don't have a giant CNC. So we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. Just a router in my hand and hope for the best. So let's get this thing glued on there. Now I will say that because we blew the image up so big, it's pretty pixely. I think it's gonna be fine though, because it gives me the general idea of the lines that I need to go around. This logo has this kind of just moth silhouette. I might take the time to actually freehand add a little bit more detail to this moth. I think that could look cool. But hey, you do whatever you want. Get your logo printed out, glue up a big block, and then do it by hand. Unless this doesn't work, you'll find out at the end of the video whether it works or not. If it doesn't work, then don't do it that way. Find somebody with a CNC. I think it's gonna work though. It's gonna work. Yeah. Why wouldn't it work? All right, I got my image on here. I added a little bit more detail to the moth. I chalked up a, I'm thinking I'm using a bits and bits upcut downcut bit, a compression bit, because then it's a little bit of the best of both worlds. It's a 1/4 inch. I just don't know, to get the control I want to follow the lines, how deep I can go. Because if I go too deep and I'm biting off too much at once, it's going to want to jump around on me. So I think the smart thing to do would be to get a scrap offcut of this material and just kind of do some test passes. See how deep I can go without it moving all over the place. Because I would like to not have to do this entire sign with 2 passes. Because it's already going to take long enough to cut it out once. If I have to do 2 separate passes, it's going to take a really long time. I did get a little heavy on my glue in a few spots, so I'm gonna wait and do that last while that dries up. I don't know, this could be a terrible idea, because now that I'm looking at this, there's a lot to cut out by hand. Why do I do this to myself? Whew. You know, that really wasn't that bad. I mean, at first it was kind of a pain, but once you get the hang of it, you kind of get in this Zen-like groove. I have everything outlined, so now it's just hogging out all the void, the negative space, which is going to take a while. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a smaller bit just because I couldn't get in some of the little nooks and crannies as detailed as I want with this 1/4 inch bit. I'm going to get all those little nooks and crannies. Then I'm going to use the 1/4 inch bit to get rid of like the tighter spaces. And once I kind of open it up a little bit more and I'm just dealing with big chunks, I'm going to switch to a bigger router bit so it goes faster. But I think this is going to work. Oh, and then I'm going to come back and I'm not going to quite do the detail in the Moth as deep as everything else. And I'll probably use the smaller bit for all that detail too. But I think it's going to work. I'm really excited for when I actually get the paper off of here because then I'll be able to tell. It's kind of hard to tell now what my cuts look like because it's all covered up with paper. Anyways, more routering. All right, I have it all carved out with the router. And I have to say, I think I did an okay job following the lines. I mean, yes, there is some chatter, undulation in different places, but it's a handmade sign. Now, it was really hard to keep a perfect depth when I was pocketing out all this blank space, just keeping the router even. So I could meticulously go through and sand this background to get rid of all that. Or I could take a scoop chisel like this and I could add a hand textured background with the chisel. Some like purposeful undulation, which I think will hide all that and look really cool and only take me hours and hours to complete. So why not? Chisel, sign. Let's go. Oh. Okay. All hand carved out. Now, what do I need to do? I need to get a jigsaw and I need to cut out the outside shape. I'm gonna stay outside of my router line, and then once I cut it out, I'll use a flush trim bit to do a final pass. Even though my router line's not perfect, but it'll match, at least that way. Then I need to sand off all this paper and get it ready to paint. We're getting there. I think I'm done with all the annoying fiddly work though, which is good. Ay, ay, ay. Yep, that was a lot of work. But it just shows that you can do it without a CNC, which is pretty cool. Now, I have it all sanded. I have it all carved out. This beautiful wood. And I know, go ahead, get your comments ready. Now I'm gonna paint it. But the whole plan with this was to make it look like the logo, which is a combination of black, white, and kind of like a mustardy yellow. So that's what I'm gonna do. But it was important to use Sapele because it is gonna be outside, and even with the paint, you want a wood that does well outside. There's gotta be an order of operations to how I'm gonna paint this. I'm not exactly sure what it is because there's multiple colors. I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to do it. So I gotta give that some thought. But yeah, almost there. Paint! Hey, I did it. I made a sign. I have to say, that was an insane amount of work. Yes, it would be easier to use a CNC, but I think there's something cool about not using computers and technology. Everything's gotten too perfect nowadays. Where are the days when things were still handmade and you could tell that they were actually handmade? The little imperfections, the details that you don't get when a computer does stuff for you. If you like this sign and you want to try making one yourself, just go for it. It's a lot of fun, and it's honestly not that bad. There's also, if you like the logo, merch on the website. We got hats, we got t-shirts, all sorts of stuff. So, you can wear this sign on your person. All right, now that we got the sign done, we actually have to get back to working on the inside of the shop. So stay tuned for that next week. Also, if you're not a patron, you should go sign up. We're doing our Patreon Summit this May, the weekend of the 15th and the 16th in Phoenix. We'd love for you to come hang out with us, but you got to be signed up over on Patreon. Anyways, there's links down in the video description. Okay, I love you, bye. This is a lot of work. You know what's not a lot of work though, is creating your own beautiful professional looking website with Squarespace, who just happens to be the sponsor of today's video. Now, if you're like me, you like doing woodwork and you like working with your hands, you might not be great at computer stuff. I'm pretty terrible at it. That's why Squarespace is awesome, because you can get on their website, you pick a template, whatever fits your business best, and then you plug in all your information. And if you want something special, well, you can customize all their templates. It's that easy to create a professional looking website. I mean, I'm carving this logo out by hand the hard way. You don't have to do that kind of stuff at Squarespace. You can buy domains right on their website. You don't have to go to another platform to do it. You can do it all there. You want to take credit cards, both online and in person, you can do it through the Squarespace app. And it automatically updates your quantity when you take credit cards in person on your website. So you don't have to be managing stuff in 2 places at once. Lots of times, we want to let people know what's going on in the shop, which means we want to send out a newsletter. Well, with Squarespace, it's really easy to collect emails for a newsletter. And then you just newsletter, send all the people, Managing a business could not be easier with Squarespace. And if you want to check it out, all you got to do is go to squarespace.com/bourbonmothwoodworking and you are going to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Or if that wasn't easy enough already, you just use the coupon code bourbonmothwoodworking at checkout. Bada bing, bada boom. Professional looking websites for everybody with Squarespace. Thanks for sponsoring this video.